Hello there, I am Joan Turner. I am the resident artist at the Drake Council on Aging, and welcome back. If you have been following along, we have been doing a number of art tutorials, and I am shooting them, videoing them here right in my very own art studio. I don't know if you can see the wall. There's a lot of art in this room. Anywho, we are here by the good graces of the Friends of the Drake Elderly, Cultural Council, and the very marvelous Bethany Lovelace. And this is going to be easily over 20. I'll have to sit and count them at some point. But today's tutorial is a Valentine. This is what we're going to do, okay? So if you can take a snapshot of this, go ahead and do it. If you have a art pack from the DCOA, it will have a picture like this in it. And what you will need is a rock, a very beauteous rock indeed. And it should have, a couple of coats of white on it. I actually have two here, and one of them is actually an older rock that I didn't like how I did it, so I just painted over it because it's blue underneath. So you can use any rock that you like. It's probably going to need two coats, no matter whether it's an older rock or a new rock. Okay. So, and you would have rocks with those of you who have picked up art packs from Drake Council on Aging. Okay. The other things that you will need are brushes, small, medium, and large. Okay, which also happens to be in your art kit. Okay. If you don't have a rock at all, and maybe you didn't pick up an art kit, you can actually paint this on anything your heart desires. You could paint it on a piece of wood. You could paint it on a canvas. You could paint it on a dish if you so desired, but you wouldn't be able to eat off of it after that. It would just have to be a design. But you can actually paint. We're using acrylic paints, and acrylic paints are very adaptable. You can use them to paint on just about anything. They'll even paint on glass. I would advise you use glass paint to paint on glass, but you could very easily paint on glass. Why won't my bench move? Because I have so much stuff on it. Okay, so besides the white, yeah, I always like to have some brown or black around just in case I want to darken any of the colors, like maybe have a dark green on some of my leaf work. Um, if you don't have brown, the art kits absolutely include black. I get a chance to take a look at them. And they are the three primary colors, which are red, blue, and yellow, and black and white. Okay, so out of those five paints, you can actually make any color that you want. All right, so if in fact you want to make pink, obviously you'd mix red and white. If you wanted to have a purple heart, you would mix blue and red. That would give you purple. If you wanted orange, you would mix yellow and red and get orange. Okay, I'm going to stick pretty close to this color scheme because it's one of the reasons that I was so drawn to it is the colors are beauteous. I'm going to move this. Okay, so brushes, paint. You will need palettes. I'm just using paper plates for the palettes. You will need water. Okay, and I usually have about 2 or 3 bowls of water. Don't put your water in drinking cups, all right? Because if you're very focused on painting, you see a glass, you might take a sip out of it, and we do not want you to do that, okay? So that, brushes, paints, a palette, gotta have hot cocoa, gotta have a rock, and this handout. I can't think of anything else. Wear art clothes. If you get paint on your clothes, table, or floor, and you clean it while it's still wet, you can pretty well do that. You can clean it off. Once it dries, it becomes permanent, okay, on your clothes, on your table, on your floor, and especially if you have a carpet. So if you have those things and you don't have a designated art space, like down here in my art studio, cover it. Dollar store, tablecloths, whatever it might be, newspapers. I know no one does newspapers anymore, but cover those things, okay? Paper towels, you want to have paper towels nearby. And I always have uh, um, cotton swabs nearby because if you make a little mistake, you can just, while it's wet, just kind of scoop it off of there. Makes things a little bit easier for you. So I like to have those nearby. And the other thing you will want is a pencil. Okay, this is actually a mechanical pencil, but any pencil will actually do because once we get our base coat on these rocks, we're going to actually draw on them to give ourselves some guidelines. Okay, so again, if you don't have this picture, you can take a snapshot of it, a still, or and you should, if you're not, shame on you, get a newsletter from the Drake Council on Aging, and that picture would be in there as one of the projects that we're going to do. Okay, or it be online. If you get an email, you can just take it right offline. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, like I said, is we're going to paint these rocks. We're going to give them a good first coat, but I actually did it white for the first coat, but for the second coat, I'm actually going to add a little bit of brown. Okay, so I put some white paint. Oh, there it is. There it is on my palette. And now I'm going to add just a teensy bit of brown to it. I'm actually going to add the brown to my palette, not right to my paint, because this way I can go ahead and mix the color that I want. So I'm going to putz around a little bit here and see if I can get the camera on the artwork. You will be ever so pleased. This is my new mic. I'm hoping that means you're going to hear me better. So let me try and get it out of the way here. I actually think I can put it put it underneath here. Let me reattach it. Okay, let's do that. Bear with me here for a few more seconds. And while we're doing that, let's see if we can hook it up in here maybe, so it doesn't quite fall over. I don't want it to fall over here. All right, so that's standing up. I'm going to move this a little bit closer. And now I believe you can see what's going on here. All right, so I took a little bit of brown that kind of squirted all out all over the place. So I'm not going to take the brown and mix it all in my white. I'm going to segregate a little bit of the white, and then I'm just going to dip into the brown just a tad like this, and maybe a tad more. So what I'm doing is I'm just adding a little at the time until I get kind of an off-white. Okay, oh, actually, this would be good to have maybe done you guys have black, so it would be nice to kind of have a slate gray type of thing. Okay, so I have two rocks here, so I'm going to go ahead and do one with the off-white. I don't know if you can see. Okay, see there's white here and off-white here. So that's like this. And then I'm actually going to clean off this brush. Okay, and remember, I have a couple of dishes here. And in one dish, I always kind of swish first, and then in the other, I do a second swish. And I'm looking for my black paint here. The blue paint. I have purple paint. I'm sure I have black paint. Oh, that's so not black paint. Hey, hey. Hold that thought. Oh, black paint. Ta-da! All right. closer here. All right, so like I said, those of you who have the art kits are going to have some black in there. So let's, because I have two rocks, and you certainly can do two rocks. You can do as many as your heart desires. And you should have gotten a rock with your art kit. If you did not, you can get any rock from outside that you like the shape of, and just make sure your rock is kind of clean. All right, very cool. Okay, so now I'm going to do the same thing. Here's my off-white over here, and maybe I'll do the other side of this rock when it dries. But let's take some white and segregate it on this side. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm just going to tap into that black because the black is a stronger color than the white is. So it's going to start to get gray really, really fast. Okay, so this is my very, very light gray. Yeah, you could go a teensy bit darker, Johnny. Here we go. All right. Or you don't have to have any gray at all. So here's my gray, here's my tan, white, brown, black. All right. And if you do not have brown, but you would like to have brown, as long as you have red and green. Red and green makes brown. Now, if you do not have green, because green is not one of the primary colors, if you mix blue and yellow are two primary colors. And primary colors just mean that they're not colors that can be mixed. You kind of have to get them that way, okay? So if you want green, then you have to mix blue and yellow together, and you'll get and it's, even though it's more convenient to actually buy the colors already made, you can actually get the exact um, shades that you want if you're in fact mixing them yourself. Okay, so it's a good reason to do that, and a lot of artists do. And so I'm going to put this over here. All right, so this little guy is actually a very light gray color, and this one is an off-white, and actually I can see the difference in the screen, so hopefully you can too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rinse off this brush. Okay, so all I'm doing is just kind of swishing it in the water. And let me kind of give you an idea here. Okay, looks like milk, but it's actually just white because of the brush in the paint on the brush. All right. So then I have a second dish, which is nice and clear. Okay. So now that I took off the heavy paint, I actually can go into my second dish and have it relatively clean. Now, I used to just do the one, and then I started doing the tutorial, so I wouldn't take out extra time cleaning them, but I like the convenience of it so much. Now I just use two all the time. Okay, so let's see if we can get less of my tummy and more of the artwork. I'm trying not to touch the computer too much because I get paint all over the place. I actually had paint on my cup of hot cocoa. Needless to say, I drank it anyway. All right, so now take a look here. If in fact your rocks are not dry, just go ahead and pause the video. Okay, whether you're watching it on TV. I also have YouTube available, so after I make these, I upload them to a YouTube channel, so you can actually view them anytime you want. And I have all the YouTube links, obviously. So if you want one and you want a specific tutorial and you can't seem to find it anywhere, let me know because I have them. I have them all. Right? And one. I have several, as you might imagine. I'm going to mix a little bit more paint here. Or you can just call me, okay? 978-807-7608. I do screen my calls. So just say who it is. Say, yo, it's me, and I would like the rock tutorial, the Valentine's Day rock tutorial. And most of the times, if you give me the date, I can probably just go and find it by the date. But if you have the name, that would be even more awesome and easier for me to find them. But I do keep track of them all. Okay, so now this I don't know which one I like better. What I'm actually resting these on little shot glasses from the dollar store. Okay, and so I'm just if I put them there, the air can kind of get in and around and so on and so forth. So again, stop the video, let them dry, and start to get ready. Well, the very next thing that we're going to do is actually draw some guidelines on our rock, and it's going to look like this. Okay. So guidelines, we're going to do the guidelines in pencil. So you want to draw lightly. Okay, don't draw like these big, heavy, thick lines, because then your lines will show. We don't want them to show, they're just guidelines. So we don't necessarily want them in our finished picture. We definitely don't want them in our finished picture. So we're going to keep those lines light. And if you're like most people, the tendency is to go daka. So you're going to have to concentrate on just drawing lightly. Okay, acrylic paints dry relatively fast. Now I just put the second coat on there, and even though it has a few kind of wet spots, it's actually dry enough for me to go ahead and draw on. So I am going to do that. Okay, so what I do with my pencil. Ta-da! Okay, so I usually use drawing pencils, but for the sake of this video and the fact that this is such a small, thin graphite, I don't want to say lead, graphite lead. It obviously is not lead, but it's a piece of graphite that's in there. And it's such a thin piece that it shouldn't make too much of a line. Okay, so the very next thing that you really must do is decide how you're going to, which side of the rock do we want to paint on. Now, typically, what I do with them is I put them on one side and then the other side, and whichever way they sit the best, like this is has a little bit of a rocking motion, but when I do this, it doesn't. So I would say this side is the best side for me to paint on. And then, do I want to hold it this way? Or do I want to hold it this way? Or do I want to hold it this way? We can hold it. You really are the creator. Literally, you're creating this. And because this has a little bit of a thicker edge to it over here, I actually think I'd like to hold it like that. All right? So with that in mind, I am going to kind of get my heart on it. And I haven't practiced ahead of time, and you don't need to either, because we're not looking for perfection here. We're just looking for something totally awesome and beautiful, which is definitely going to happen. So you could use a template if you want to. You can make a heart, you could cut it out and then draw it, whatever. But all the heart really is let me see here. Let me get a piece of paper and show you that you can get the really nice looking heart if in fact you draw two circles like this, kind of close together. Can you see that? Let me go darker here for this demonstration. but you're going to do them lighter. Okay. So can you see? Okay. So there are my two circles, and I made them as big and round and the same as I could. And then I'm going to take this V shape, okay, like this. All right. And see what I have here? Okay. And so I have a heart. And, I can perfect the shape. I can round out these sides a little bit. I can bring this in. I can make the heart more drippy droopy if I want to. But I have a pretty good shape heart there. Okay. So what you want to do is that on your rock. Okay, so this heart takes up most of the rock here and has a lot of interesting things in it, little flowers and leaves. This is actually one of the reasons I chose it for this tutorial is that it didn't look really, really too difficult, and it's actually quite beautiful. It's quite pretty. Okay, so I'm going to follow my own suggestion and make two circles here. And again, I haven't practiced either. Okay, so if you need to practice how to make a heart, go ahead and practice. If you can see that, but I'll go over it in red paint so that you can see it. And red paint. I did take some red paint out, but now that I'm looking over here, maybe, do I like this red paint better? Let me see. Let's see. Where are you? Oh, it's way over there. Okay, so I'm gonna stretch in front of the camera and apologize ahead of time for doing it. But I found this really, really awesome red. Okay, so I'm gonna take this really awesome red, and you don't have to do this right now. Okay, you actually can just wait. Okay, I just want to do this in red so that you can see it, right? Because I'm not sure, when I look into the camera, I'm not really sure I see the pencil so great. So let me take my fine brush, and this is a fine brush, okay? And if you don't have a really fine brush, but you have a really old brush, what I did to this is I took and cut off the hairs until there were just a few hairs left, right? So that I would end up with a very fine haired brush. And it's always good to for the details. So I'm going to, you don't need to, I'm going to just outline this heart so that you can see where I made my pencil lines. And the reason that I'm outlining it in red is, you guessed it, I'm going to paint it red. So hold that thought and let me do this for you. Okay. And remember that these are just guidelines. Okay. So now you should be able to see it quite well. Okay. So again, just draw yours in pencil. I am just doing this so you can see it. All right. So now I'm going to clean up my little three-head brush and put it over here. And then I'm going to go back to my pencil. Okay. Now in the over here, there's some leaves that are coming out of the side of that. And again, you totally do not need to do exactly what I do or what's on the handout or anything like that. Okay, but I'm going to go ahead and make a couple of leaves here coming out of the side, and this is kind of flower here. I'm not sure what kind of flower it is. Maybe I'll make it a little tulipy type thing. That would be pretty. Okay, again, do your thing. Um, that way it'll come out best, right? And my rock is rounder than my rock is wider. This one's kind of taller. Okay, and it's more spread out. So I actually made my leaves bigger coming out of the side here. Okay, so I'm actually going to. I see some blue under it. I don't know what the blue is. Kind of pretty. I like the blue, but I don't know what it is. So until maybe I'll think of something that I can make blue for down there. We'll see what happens. Okay, so there is a flower down here, which looks like it's supposed to be a rose or a tulip. But I'm going to say just make whatever is easy for you. So I am actually just going to make it like a flower, the round center, similar to the big white one that's on there. See the white one with you see that? With the yellow middle? I'm going to actually make a small one here instead of that tulipy looking thing. But you absolutely can do that. You can make it a tulip. You can make it any kind of flower that you want. It doesn't have, have to have a flower there. That flower might be yours. Okay. So, and this flower is going to be in the foreground, which means it's going to be in front of my heart. Okay. So now there's a leaf coming out of that. So I'm going to try to draw like this so you can see what I'm doing. Here, and that's another one down here. And it's quite all right if you go off the sides. I actually like them when the story kind of continues off the sides. Okay. So these are all just really guidelines. I'm going to write the word love over here, but you don't have to. You could write someone's name. You could write your honey's name if you so desired. Maybe. Okay, maybe I'm going to write someone's name in there. But you absolutely could put love. All right. So I'm going to wait until after I paint the heart. And then after the heart is dry, I'm going to pencil in the name of a very sweet person that I know. Okay. You could put your granddaughter's name in there. I have an awesome niece. You could put her name in there. So maybe I will make a couple because I absolutely would like to kind of make one for my sweetie as well. So I'm going to put in a big, I just want to make sure I have enough room for his name over here. And so down here, I'm going to put in the big flower, the bigger flower, I should say. Okay, there we go. It is bigger, and now, and as I'm doing this, I'm thinking, oh, it actually could be a little bit bigger. So I am making it bigger. Now is absolutely the time to make any adjustments that you want to make to your flowers or anything else that's going on here. Because again, this is the guideline stage, all right? So there is another flower way up here, and I like all these flowers. And these flowers are really easy flowers, so I like that too, because then the way I'm not concentrating so hard on getting it absolutely. Nature is very, very forgiving. As a matter of fact, it actually looks better when they're not calculated and forced and all that good stuff. So here's another flower right up here. And of course, more leaves. And again, coming right off the top of this, like this. And this leaf is going to go behind my heart. So see that leaf is behind. These are in the front, and this leaf is in the front. This flower is behind the heart. So I am going to put the leaves behind the heart as well. Okay, let's work on that. Now you can see inside, I'm going to show it close up. Okay, so now inside the heart, there is a three-leaf clover and a ladybug. Now, everyone knows that ladybugs are good luck, so don't be smushing them if you see them. Let them free, all right? And actually, a four-leaf clover, that three-leaf clover is lucky too. So we're going to put that on there as well. Do you have to? Absolutely not, my darlings. You can leave it out, you can put it on, you can make it another flower, you can do whatever your heart desires because you are the creator. Okay, so I made my three-leaf clover really badly. Part of it is the way I'm holding the rock, so I'm going to use that kind of as my excuse. And so here's my three-leaf clover. And maybe I would make them even a little bit bigger, but for right now, I think that'll do. And the stem is coming off the side here. And it's kind of important to have the stem connected there because, as you can see, there's this kind of vine work. Okay, so it's connected. It's connected to the stem. So here's the stem of the three-leaf clover, and then off of that stem comes this squiggle, and then up here and up here. Okay, now these just are kind of like flattened out S's. People get nervous kind of when they see those, but you really, really don't need to. Okay, so I'm going to actually, still not happy with my clover. All right, okay, so if I show you my clover, you're going to say, gee, she said draw light, look what she did. Okay, so I'm guilty as charged. So now I'm going to take this stem and I'm going to get another stem and bring it right around here, right, like this. So it's on the outside. I extended it over my leaf and really thickened it. That kind of put it behind this leaf over here. And then there's one that kind of goes around the side of the heart and way up here and kind of curls under this way. I'm going to make it nice and thick like this. Curl it under here like that. Okay, so we have this, and again, my rock is a slightly different shape. So I'm actually altering this design just a little bit just to accommodate the shape of my rock. So if your rock is kind of wider, then make your vines come out more. If it's taller, make them come out less. Okay, that's a pretty full rock I have going here. And I'm actually going to put another leaf right here to accommodate that spot. Okay, so the only thing missing from this rock is my ladybug. And there's so much going on here. I'm going to hold off on the ladybug and I'm going to hold off on the honey's name. Okay, so now what we can do is start doing our color work. And this is a really exciting part because you can see it kind of come to life. Okay, so the first thing with any kind of painting, I always say work from the back forward. And what I mean is the furthest thing away from the viewer is what you should do first, which in this case is the background. And we did do that. Okay, so the next thing would be this flower, probably, but maybe this and this. So it's a pretty close call in here. Now let's go ahead and kind of do this flower. And this is in my picture here, and I'm sure everyone's computer screens calibrate a little bit differently. It's not the same red as the red of the heart. So, and I like that idea. I also, maybe it would look perfect. Oh, maybe I'll bring in that blue, because I do like that blue over there. I'm going to make that flower blue. Okay, so you should have blue in your art pack. Okay, and blue, you can make it. I wonder if I have a nice cerulean blue. All right, so what whatever kind of blue that you have, all right, whatever came in your pack is fine. Um, and when you put out a little bit on your plate. And if you need another plate, use another plate. Actually, these rocks don't really call for like huge amounts of paint. So I just put out a little bit. Once you have the blue on your plate, you can use it straight out of the container, and depending on what shade of blue you have, you might like it or not like it, and it's totally up to you. I'm going to take a smallish kind of brush, and I'm going to want it to be a little bit lighter. So I'm going to do the same thing. The blue is a heavier color than the white is. So I'm going to do the white first and then mix this in there. Now, that might be a little bit too light. Okay, and this is totally up to you. If you like a light blue, make it light. If you want a dark blue, make it dark blue. If you want to use it right from the tube or the container, that's okay too. I actually like this blue a little bit better. My paint is a little bit tacky here, so I'm just going to dip the brush in the water. Don't put a lot of water in your acrylic paints. Watering them down, you will make them like watercolors, and you will not be a happy camper. I'm going to take a little bit of this red and put that in there. And now I'm getting kind of a purpley color because red and blue makes purple. Okay. And that I'm liking. I'm liking that. Okay, so let me see here. Do I want, oh, look at this blue. Oh, okay, I'm liking that blue even better. Okay, so I am going to clean up. And you guys out there who are doing this video, changing your mind is not just a woman's prerogative. Anyone can change their mind. Okay, so there's not much of this blue in here, just barely in it, just barely get it out of it. Okay, so this blue is a deep turquoise, and kind of liking that. So I'm going to this some blue on this brush because this is the brush that I used to mix the paint. But having a little bit of blue in there is not a problem. Okay, so this I'm kind of liking it just the way it is. So I am going to go ahead and make sure my hands are dry, but I'm going to begin to paint this on here. And this brush is going to be way too thick. So I'm going to take a smaller brush. Is this one going to be too big? I am going to need my 3-hair brush for this because this is pretty small over here. Okay, so all right, and that's a little bit too small. There's just no way to keep me happy today. All right, so I'm going to move back here and get this brush do the trick. It's a little bit bigger than my really tiny brush, but it has a little bit of a point on it so that I can kind of get into the smaller space. So look how pretty that is. Liking it, liking it. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to hold it over here because it's a little bit easier for me to paint that way. But I will definitely show it to you afterwards. Okay, and I don't know if you can see this, but I'm using my finger to anchor my hand. You can put the rock down on the table or whatever surface you're walking on, but when you're kind of holding it up in the air like this, you do need to have a steady hand. So you need to anchor your hand, and this will help keep it nice and still. Right, so this, again, this flower is behind our heart. So that's why we're doing it next. Okay, and I am going to have to take my really tiny brush and get into some of these places here. Okay, so that's what it looks like right now. Okay, so I'm gonna, I just brought my brush right onto my floor. So I'm going to actually clean the floor because now it is blue spots on it. And again, if the paint is wet, then it's really, really easy to get it off of there. If the paint is dry, that is a different story. Okay, so as promised, I'm going to take, this is what I have so far. I'm going to take my 3-head brush, the one with the not many hairs on it at all. And I'm going to get in here and do some fine line work. Okay, so if in fact you don't have a fine brush like this, you can actually wait till it dries and then use a marker. If you have a magic marker, just make sure that your magic marker says that it's permanent. Okay, one time I used a marker. I thought, oh yeah, I'm just going to make this easy for myself. So I used a marker, and then when I went to kind of seal it with some Mod Podge or some varnish, it actually ran. So once that only has to happen to you once, and it's so traumatizing that you'll never let it happen again. Okay, so I'm actually just getting making my edges nice and smooth here. And again, I will show it to you so that you know what I'm doing. Okay, so I'm just, again, supporting my hand, but just making some fine adjustments into here. Okay, so see, that looks better. I'm so sorry. The camera shows backwards to what I'm seeing. So I want to show it to you. And sometimes I don't get it right. Okay, so now I'm going to clean the excess off my brush. And I'm just going to dip the brush in the white a little bit. And I'm going to go ahead and put some of that into these little flowers in here. Okay, let me switch to the other brush. Okay, so actually all I'm hoping to do here is just get a little highlight in them. Now, if that's a little bit too much detail for you, don't do it. Okay, but this is what it'll look like. Okay, there's just a little bit of highlight on this too. So I'm going to, oh, I think I just painted my microphone line. Well, it probably needed to be painted anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and get a little highlight on these, only because I like a lot of depth to the pictures. Now this is definitely kind of iconic. It's just a little kind of fun thing to do, but there's no reason why we can't play around. Okay, so I am going to bring it in and show you what it looks like. There's a little bit of white on there. And let's get some yellow for the middle. All right, now there's yellow here. If you don't want to make yellow for the middle, you absolutely do not have to. But I have to say, I like it there. So I have some really kind of goldy yellow. If in fact you do not, then you can take some yellow with some red and you will just add just a tinge of red. And you also will get a nice goldy color. Now I'm getting what happened here. So I'm getting some of this blue on my background. And that's what happens when you have dirty hands. Okay? You don't clean your hands off. But I'm actually just going to take a little bit of this white and just kind of go over my background a little bit. I'm not going to fuss around with it too much because I'll probably have to make some adjustments elsewhere. And this is not a pure white back here. This is a very light grayish white. So I'm actually going to wait, I think. And then towards the end, when I need more done, I'll go ahead and do it. Okay, so I'm going to take and clean off my brush. Okay, and again, I'm doing that by swishing in the water. And when you do that, and then you take your brush and dry it on a paper towel, if the paper towel stays clean, then the brush is clean. Okay, if when you do this, the paper towel turns colors, and it's not. Okay, this is coming out clean, so I know that this brush is okay. And if the colors are relatively the same, like if you're going from a blue to a purple, I wouldn't worry too much about that. But if you're going from a dark color to a light color, and we're going to yellow color, then it does make a difference. Okay, and if we mix the blue and yellow, we would definitely come out with green, and we would get a green center. So if you would like to do that, absolutely you should. It can be a happy little accent, but it's really good if you kind of get what you want. So I put very little yellow out here because it's there's only two yellow centers that I see here in the picture. Okay, so I am going to go ahead and do this, starting in the middle, and then just kind of dragging it around a little bit. And this, I think, I will put two coats on. Okay, that's what it looks like. Um, so you could put it under the fan for a few minutes if you have one, or you could actually just fan it yourself. You could actually blow on it, okay, and that would dry it too. But we can also just take our time and just let it dry, okay? So I think what we should do next is actually the red heart, okay? Because that's kind of like, well, actually the green, the green leaves, especially the ones up here, are really behind that heart. I'm so excited. I want to get to that heart so fast. I'm just jumping over all the steps. Okay, so green, yellow, okay, not such a big deal, right? If you have green, and I actually have two different colors of green. If you want this kind of lime green, first of all, you're going to mix blue and yellow, and that's going to a yellow to it is going to make it really light green. All right, and it says light green. These, by the way, I got these at the dollar store. They're only $1. They're non-toxic, so I can give them to my niece and we can paint together and stuff. They're not. I get for $1, and it says premium acrylic paint, but guess what? It's very loose and thin and so on and so forth. So you definitely need a couple of coats, and they're not all fast either. This is water soluble. I had one that, again, just kind of ran. So you want to test them out. Be careful first. But if you don't have green, blue and yellow will make green. If you have green, put your green out. Um, and I'm going to use a light green and a permanent green. Okay, and this particular brand is Amsterdam. So if you decide that you're going to stay with painting and you're going to begin to use paints and buy them, and Amsterdam is a good name. Okay, Amsterdam is a good name. Premier is a good name. And these are all, they're, if you buy artist grade acrylics, they can be really thick. And then you have to get them into a consistency that you want. And to be honest with you, really serious, seen some really serious acrylic. But I've also seen some really serious acrylic painters use these too. I don't see anything wrong with them. And they, like I said, they're already pretty much the right consistency. So basic, premier, but Amsterdam is definitely a preference. Liquitex, okay, Liquitex Basics comes out with some really cool stuff. This is actually a metallic gold, right? So if you want to begin to kind of build up a little bit, always want the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, and always want some brown and black, okay? Because the browns will darken, as will the blacks. So if you don't want a really bright green, you add a little bit of brown to it, or a little bit of black to it, you get something really earthy. You get a nice earthy tone. Okay, so over here, I'm going to do these two leaves over here, and you can see one's a little bit darker, one's a little bit lighter, and there's even some line or texture here. Same thing with the flower. So we're going to put that stuff on there, but I want the flower to dry first. Okay, so I am just going to take this green and add a little bit of brown. So you can add brown or black. Okay, and it just gives it a teensy bit more of a dark value or hue to it. Okay. And then I'm going to do my leaves. Okay, and be careful doing your leaves around your petals on your flower. Okay, because you can fix it certainly, but if you don't have to, that's even better. Okay. So here, let me show you this leaf. Maybe. Oh, OBK. Where is it? There. Ta-da! Okay, so there's one leaf. Okay, I'm gonna go ahead and take some either. Let's take the yellow. I'm gonna dip my brush into the yellow, and I'm gonna make half of it lighter. Okay, by painting over half of it with the either lighter green or green with some yellow in it. I'm going to do the same thing down here. Let me see if I can find that leaf. Where is it? Oh, it's right over here. Now, your guidelines should be guiding you. Okay, let me see. And there's a lot of lines on here. So I'm just going to kind of guess where those are. Okay, so I'm putting the light green, sorry, putting the light green on half and the dark green on the other half. Okay, and while this is wet, while it's wet is a really good time to blend. So the dark green, the green that has the brown in it, is going to go up against the light part of the other leaf. Okay, and again, I will attempt to show you. Right. So maybe if I get up into this, oh, that's better. There. Now you can see it. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and bring this leaf all the way over here. Okay. And the really dark side is here and here. And then I use the yellow, light green to do those spots. And again, we'll put in the lines and whatnot and give our stone a little bit more character. But it's going to be a lot easier if I let that dry first. Okay. So let's see here. Now I think it's time. I've been so excited. I have been wanting to do that red part. Okay, rinsing my brush out. Now, green and red makes brown. I do not want a brown heart. So if I'm going to use the same brush, and I am, that means it's got to be clean. So I did quite a bit of smushing around in the water, and my brush is coming out clean, which is a good sign. If you use a different brush, you don't have to worry about it so much. But if you are using the same brush, then I would say make sure it's really clean. Okay, so this flower down here. Okay, see where I drew the flower over the heart? I'm going to actually paint that white. Okay, so I painted that white so that you wouldn't see the line from the heart, because that flower actually wants to be on top of the heart. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and do my heart, which I so wanting to do here. Okay, so even though it's kind of a large space, take your time, anchor your finger here, okay, so that your hand is comfortable. And especially getting around that outside edge, people have a really tough time leaving the edges so that they don't lose control over them. And then they end up making it bigger and bigger because the outer rim, something happened to it. Now, let's see here. Okay, see, we want to keep really working on that outer rim and making sure that I get it where it's supposed to be. Okay, so you can kind of see what's going on here. Okay, anchor that hand. Either rest it on the rock, rest your finger on the rock. Okay. Again, this flower is in front of the rock, which means that I have to go around that flower, which means using the point of the brush and going slow. go slow. Um, when kids paint, sometimes until they really get the hang of it, they'll go kind of fast, and then they're like, "Oh, Miss Jones, this didn't come out quite right." So I spend a lot of time just kind of slowing them down. Um, but with adults, because they're adults, I find that they think that they're supposed to get it perfect or better than a child because they're adults. But the thing of it is that it's something new for you. I mean, so unless it's something that you've been doing right along, be patient. Be patient with yourself. Anchor. Okay. So this red line that's going through my flower, again, the flower is going to be in the foreground. So I'm going to take a brush and just dip it into the white paint, and I'm going to paint this red line out of here. Okay, now I could just paint over it, certainly, with the color of the flower, but I would have to do several coats to actually cover the red. So this will uh, help me to not have to do that. Okay, so now that line through the flower is gone, okay, I'm going to go back to my red, and I'm going to work around my shimmer. Okay, and again, I'm using a very steady hand here. And if you don't have a steady hand, don't worry about it. Okay, I was a student um, many moons ago, and she was in the drapery class, and she had Parkinson's, and she said to me, she said, I joined the class because I really want to paint. She said, I'm not sure. She said that I can because, I don't have a steady hand. And I said to her, well, I said, anyone can paint. I said, if in fact, I said, you don't have a steady hand, I said, will probably paint differently than the rest of the class. I said, which is an awesomely good thing, I would say, because then you have a very unique way of doing things, and she did, and her work was absolutely gorgeous, 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 and it had a wonderful feel to it that was different than most people's work, and not your personality comes through your artwork. And her personality was free and joyful, and that's exactly what you saw. She was an awesome, awesome student. So I'm not sure if she moved. Her sister was also artistically inclined, and I'm the treasurer. I sit on the board of the Greater Haven Arts Association. So, so her aunt, maybe her aunt or sister, maybe it was just one of them, but signed up and became a member and actually exhibited her work, and if memory serves, won a couple of awards there. So you never know. You just never know. Okay, so this green stem is eventually going to come over the heart, all right, and merge with one of the stems out here. But for now, we're going to do this. Now, again, it's a good idea if you kept those guidelines light. I don't know if you can see mine through the red. I can see mine through the red. So obviously, this will need a second coat. So I am going to work on something else till it dries, and then I'm going to go back and give it a second coat because you could definitely see my guidelines and where I went over things to uh, reshape my clover. Okay, I'm going to fix this edge just a little bit. Okay, so take a look at your heart, and kind of move it away from you and see what the shape looks like. Does it need any help anywhere? This one wants a little bit of help right here. Okay, so look at the shape of my heart. Okay, and again, it's just two circles and a triangle, right? So hopefully you practiced before you actually did it. Okay. So again, I am just going to kind of let that red hot dry, and I'm going to clean my brush and go back to making some more leaves. Now, again, I really, really liked um, the green with some of the brown or black in it, whatever you're putting in there. I actually just like it a little bit darker, and then I highlight it afterwards. So I'm actually taking some of this brown, adding it to the green. Okay, gonna dip just the tip of my brush into the water to thin this out a little bit, because when you draw these kind of curly areas in here, you want it to kind of flow a little bit. And this brush actually might just be too big. Oh, not too bad, but maybe I'll stick to the leaves with the bigger brush. Okay, so paint in your leaves. And if you're doing your stems, use the smallest brush that you have. If you're putting in those, doing the stem work out here. Okay. So lots of leaves here. How many did I put in? There's another. Oh, it's another one over here. Oh, that's my flower. That's my flower over there. Okay, so let's do that. Okay, now I have these two leaves together. So rather than confuse the two leaves, I'm going to take the lighter paint, or if you want to add yellow so that you have a lighter green, do that so that you can see um, one leaf from the other. And then take some of that light and put it up here. And take some of the dark and put it over here. Okay, so now you can see that there's two leaves there. Okay, so this one is right over here, and is it on the front and the back? Maybe this one's on the front a little bit. So let's go ahead and do that. It'll give it a little bit more fun. Okay, and again, these two leaves are the same value or the same shade. So it's difficult unless you're right on top of it to kind of see, which is which. So the way that we work with that is to go ahead and lighten up or darken one or the other. And when you see it, you'll be like, oh my God, I did that. It's so cool. And it's all true. You are the creator. Look at those leaves. Yes. All right. So where else do I have a leaf here? That is my flower. Okay. Oh no, it's way down here. Okay. So I'm going to do another leaf right here. And again, I need to make a shading kind of difference here so that we can tell what leaf is where. Okay. So having different shades and different colors is actually just awesome. It's just an awesome way to do things. Okay, so there's my leaves. Okay, my flowers over there. I have more leaves over here. I'm going to go over and put those in. And these leaves are a little bit smaller, so I may even want to switch smaller brush, which I'm going to do right now. And where did I put that little guy? Ah, there he is. Okay, so switching this to the smaller brush because now I'm working with these really small leaves, and that I know that you're not supposed to be a control freak, but in this case, control is the name of the game, kids. All right, so let's take this one and this one. Okay, and I will show you un momento what I'm doing here. Okay, so I'm doing those two leaves down at the bottom over here. And again, we're going to change the part of the leaf, of one leaf that's right up against the other part. Okay, that is how we tell one leaf from the next. Just change the value of it. Give it a little shading, give it a little highlight, whatever you want. Whatever looks good to you. Okay. There we have it. There we go. Right. So I'm actually going to add a little bit more white up here. You can sit and paint for hours and hours and hours, and before you know it, you're like, oh my God, what time is it? Is it still the same day? My house, someone said my house was like Grand Central Station, which I guess sometimes it kind of is. So painting late at night sometimes is really fun for me because the phone's not ringing constantly and people kind of coming in and out. But I like it. I like it. I like when people come and visit. I like doing artwork together. It's all good. It's all good. And everyone's been vaxxed and boosted 100 times and whatnot. So, you know what? It's time to party hardy a little bit. I'm actually making some lines on my leaves. Okay, and that's going to give my leaves a little bit of texture as well. It actually makes them look a little bit veiny. Veins are good in leaves. Okay, see the little veins in there? So the veins on the dark parts of the leaves, I'm making the veins light, and on the light parts, you could make the veins dark. Kind of staying with the light here, a little bit. Okay, so see that way down there? It's too thick, so I'm going to take a little bit of the dark. So if what I'm getting at is if you happen to make a mistake, don't panic. The student that goes, oh my God, I wrote the whole picture. What am I going to do? And I said, well, and I said, all right, fix it. What do you mean? How do I do that? Okay. And how you do that is you look at the picture and you look at what you think is a mistake and you ask yourself what makes it look like a mistake. And it could be that the colors are running together and you need more contrast in the color work. So on the lights, you're going to try and find something a little bit darker. On the darks, you might want to try something a little bit lighter. So a lot of people just know that, oh my gosh, it doesn't look right, but they have a hard time diagnosing the issue, the problem. Okay, so actually, if you don't panic, that
that makes thinking about it even a little bit easier. If in fact you panic, what you're thinking about in your mind is like, oh my God, I messed up my picture. What am I going to do? Blah, blah, blah. But when you're kind of like, okay, I know everything can be fixed, then you kind of look at it and you go, all right, so what do I need to fix here? Where's it off? So your thought process is different when you're not upset. Okay. So when something like that happens, just know that it happens to everyone, not just you. Just happened to me, right? And I have been painting for many moons. Someone said to me, how many moons? And I'm like, many moons. So one person, I said, oh, I said, I've been painting and drawing and doing art and actually basically just teaching and whatnot for over like 40 years. And they looked at me and they were like, 40 years? And I'm like, I shouldn't have said that, huh? They're like, no, don't say that anymore. Like, okay. So I just said it to you, but if you uh, if you repeat it, I will just totally say, no, no, it's not true. I don't know why they said that. So I'm using my tiny brush to do some of this vine work in here. And this tiny brush is really tiny. Okay. So because it's so tiny, it gives me quite a bit of control over what's going on here. Right. And again, use your baby finger to anchor your hand. Whatever it is that you need to do. In the end, whatever it is that gets you to where you want to go, like what's your goal? So whatever gets you there is the way to do it. Sometimes you want to do a really kind of deep and serious kind of picture, and other times you want a fun picture. This is a fun but meaningful picture, because whoever you give it to is going to know that you went through the time to make it for them. Okay, so see some more vines and stems in through here. Okay, so they're going to know that you spent the time, that you did it, that you did it for them. Kind of nice, kind of special. And if someone presented you with it, you would probably think that was kind of cool, right? So even if it did not come out perfect, which I have a feeling no matter what it is, the person, the people that you're giving it to are going to think it's perfect anyway because you did it for them. Okay, so just wrapping these stems around, and again, they're kind of like S's, like flattened out S's here and there. Okay, so use your small brush, getting those little spaces in there. And when you're going up another green area, when you're going up against another green area, change the value of the green so that you know that it's a whole different piece. It's not part of. Okay, and I can show you like right here when I was doing this part, it came up against this leaf, right? So because they're both relatively the same shade of green, I'm going to put a little bit more white on the leaf. a little bit more dark on the stem. So again, think about what you need. I need to be able to see that that stem is not part of that leaf, okay? And that's how we do it. We make different values or different shades, especially when they're up against each other. Okay, so, oh, oh, look. That is so cool. But we are so getting there. Okay, so my little shamrock in there needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and do that little shamrock so that it can dry. And then I can put my ladybug on there using the small brush because it gives us control. Okay. And again, these paints have a tendency to kind of dry on the faster side, especially if you're look what I did. Talk about errors. Okay, so what I ended up doing, okay, is look at that smudge. Okay, I actually put my hand on the wet green and made a smudge there. All right, so we're going to let that dry a bit. Or you know what? Let's get a Q-tip. That way I can show you the magic Q-tip thing. Where are my magic Q-tips? All right. So Q-tips, cotton swabs. So here's my smudge right here. So we want clean water, and I'm just dipping the tip of this, and you can see that this cotton swab is kind of pointed on one side and round on the other. Right? So these cotton swabs are what's known as cosmetic cotton swabs. And the reason that they're pointed like that is because women and guys, some guys, use it to put their makeup on. Okay, so other than dragging some of this color off of here, I'm actually dipping this in white paint as well and doing this. And again, this rock is kind of an off-white color. It's a grayish color. So even though that looks like it's kind of fixed, right? The white around it is a different color. So what's going to happen is I'm going to go around afterwards and just kind of rework that and make sure that it looks awesome. Okay, so that's what it looks like right now, which is not too bad. But then in the end, we'll end up going over and mixing some more of that grayish white paint if you didn't have any of Save It, which I didn't. But then I'm going to go ahead and kind of redo the background wherever it needs to be because I have a smudge here. Um, my hands they're dry mostly, but I do have a lot of paint on my hands. So we'll take care of that there. All right, so I want to go ahead and finish this. Is my little brush. I want to finish my shamrock. Okay, so I have one part of my shamrock on. I'm going to put the other on, the other two on, and try not to smudge anything else in the process. So if you're right now, obviously, doing a step-by-step, it's a tutorial. If you actually have the time to let it dry in between strokes and in between phases here, you can do that. Sometimes you actually want to let it wet, okay? to hold it on the bottom, Joan, and then the shamrock is actually, again, from the shape of hearts, right? We don't have to, they're not quite as meticulous as the first ones we put on. As long as they have a basic heart shape, and actually switching back and forth between the dark and the light greens, because we want them to be different shades. We don't want them to be all light or all dark. Again, especially if they're sitting beside each other, and they are. Okay, these heart shapes need to be different shades of green in this case. So after you get them on there, you could put a little bit of yellow in there. You actually could put white. White and the green would make it like a minty green color, which is kind of pretty. I've done that several times. Give me back in there, Jen. Thank you. Okay, so let me show you what I have going on here. Here's my shamrock. It's right there. Okay, and once that dries, ladybug, okay, ladybug. All right, so I'm dipping in my light green and just kind of moving around these stems a little bit, giving a teensy bit of highlight here and there. Okay, because for the most part, they're done. Okay, so just a little hint of highlight on them. I say for the most part because who knows, I might find something else that I want to make green or blue or something on that idea. I am going to, there's a space in between my heart and my blue flower. So I'm actually going to, I think, go ahead and fill that in and make it blue so that I don't have a blue and white space there. Okay, and I will show you in a minute if that was a good idea. A good idea or not. Oh, I'm painting my wires again here. Okay. So I'm using the fine head brush here, which I now got on my red. But again, I'm going to have a second coat of red on here, so not too concerned, not overly concerned. Okay, so hold that thought. Let me kind of make the rest of my petals a little bit bigger to accommodate the change. And when you go ahead and make changes like this, that's always a possibility that, you know, you might make one petal too big or not big enough, and then you have to kind of go ahead and rework them, which I don't necessarily think it's a problem, but some people get a little twitchy about it. Not you. Okay, so what I did is I made this flower bigger in general. And how I did that is just made the petals bigger on that blue flower. Okay. So again, I'm going to kind of take my white and I'm going to use a little bit of a different brush here. Okay. Make sure that brush is nice and clean. And we're going to take just a little bit of white on here, which, if you remember, is what we did So I covered over my highlights, so I'm putting it back in. So again, don't worry about, if you have something going on with your picture, so on and so forth, usually, you have control over what's going on there. So if you decide something's too dark, it's too light, it's too small, it's too big, you have the ability to fix that. Okay. So I'm going to take this tiny, tiny brush once again and clean the blue off of it. And it's coming out clean on my napkin here. So I'm going to say I did a good job. And I'm actually going to reshape this heart a little bit right into here. There we go. And right in through there. Okay. And that is going to help my flower as well. Okay. So I made a little correction right there. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and let that dry because eventually I want to paint it red. Again, I need a second coat of red. But I'm going to go ahead and do this little kind of purple flower down here. And again, I'm not really sure what kind of flower it is or if it's a flower at all or a certain kind of flower. But I like it in there. So I'm thinking it's kind of pinky purpley. I could put it purple in there, but Valentine's Day is kind of pinky. So I'm going to take my white paint and add it to some of the red I have going on here. Now I do not have a lot of red on this plate, so that's going to really light pink, which might be too light. So if you actually have pink, you could use pink, but I'm thinking I want to control the color here. I had a student in today, and she was opening up this painting, and it's especially when they're old, the caps break off in the whole bit. So it did. It broke, and she was a child, and so she said, Miss Jones, she said, is this cap already broken? And so I looked at her and I said, well, it is now. And she said, oh, and I said, it's not a big deal. I said, I break them all the time. I said, especially when they start to get old. I said, that happens. So it's just an accident. I said, absolutely. I said, don't worry about it. I said, as long as we can snap the cover back on, I said, that'll do the trick. And that's exactly what we did. Okay, so this pinky flower is in front of our green, but behind our heart. Okay, so in front of our green, behind our heart. So this is where it's going, right here. All right, and refer to the handout because that's exactly what I'm looking at when I'm doing these things. I'm like looking at it and saying, "Hey, I really like that," but a lot of times, you can become very inspired by what you're looking at. And students laugh at me because I say, "When I look at something that I find inspirational, I say, oh, I like that. How can I make it even better?" And then they kind of chuckle at me. So okay, so let's go ahead and do this. Okay, and I'm going to make it kind of bowl shaped over here. Bowl shaped. Okay, so see it, I kind of rounded off this bottom a little bit. Now I'm not going to clean off my brush. I'm just going to dip it right in the brown. And then in a different spot on the plate, I'm going to just mix it kind of like that. And actually, all I'm doing is making it a different shade see how that opens up my flower? All of a sudden it has something going on over there. So we have control. We can do it, right? So maybe I'm going to take out my little brush with a little tiny bits of hair on it. Okay, and if you look over here, it has these little pestils, little things coming out of there. So let's go ahead and put them in. And I'm actually just going to, once again, use some pink here with a little bit of brown going on. Okay. And I'm actually using my tiny brush to mix this, which might not have been the most brilliant idea I had because it's really hard to mix paint when you have just a few hairs. Okay, but with a few hairs, I can make this a little bit deeper in here, like this, and I'll show you in a minute what's going on here. This brush really doesn't have much in the way of hair. Now look at that pink flower. Okay, so we gave it some depth, certainly. And now, with the same color and maybe a little bit more brown or red or something, we just want to darken. We want to darken that color so that we can put in these little, whatever those are. I'm sure people will correct me. Don't you know what those are? Those are called. Okay. So these are actually extending well beyond the edge of this flower opening. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go a little darker here. Darker. All right. And I'm going to go ahead and put in some of these, whatever those are. And some of them are coming out this way and that way. Some of them are kind of going out towards the sides. Some are going out towards the middle. Okay. And there are these kind of little balls at the end. Again, I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of messages. Don't you know what those are called? I actually do not. So there we have it. Okay. So maybe another brush because it's making me crazy. Okay. So we want to, I'm going to switch to a little bit of a bigger brush here. Try to get a thin line and a little bit of a, like these little circular. I'm going to be in deep yoga. I'm going to get so many letters and calls. Don't you know what those are? For heaven's sakes, how old are you? Not to mention the flack I get from my family. You're a teacher? You don't know these things? Well, okay. Let's get a little bit more highlight in here. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean. Una minute. Okay, so a little bit more highlight on here and those pistils, they're not pistils, whatever those babies are. I'm going to put them in there over my heart. Okay, so they're supposed to, this flower is supposed to be behind the heart. So that means when I do my red on the second coat of red on the heart, I actually will go over part of that as well. So again, these are such kind of fine lines here that while they're not hard to do, certainly you have to kind of pay attention. Okay, so there's some little lines going on up here. So see my little, it looks like a little bell. Maybe they're called blue bells, but in this case, pink bells. Okay, so there's some kind of going in the opposite direction here, which kind of looks like folds in there. So this is kind of a lot of work for this little tiny flower. And actually, students will say, they'll start a picture and they'll say, why don't I use a smaller canvas? That way it won't be so difficult. But I have to tell you, working on in a smaller area like this actually takes more fine detail and work to do it. So I don't necessarily find that smaller is easier. Okay, it's actually more detailed, which is kind of nice. And that's if you like detail work, and I do like detail work. I'm going to darken this up just a tad in here. Okay. Again, this this microphone wire is going to be a lot of different colors by the time I'm done here. Okay, so I'm giving a little shadow to my pink bell, my pinky bell. Okay, and I'm pretty sure that that's probably all I'm going to do to it for now. Um, I'm going to go ahead and give my heart an extra coat of red. Okay, and this is a good time to make any kinds of corrections if you went out of the lines or did anything like that. Okay, just got a little bit of red on my green, which luckily was easily fixed. Okay, so I'm going to do my red. Yeah, I'm going to give it a second coat. Okay, and again, it's a larger space, so you can work a little faster, but you definitely have to work more carefully when you're going around these pieces of the shamrock and when you get to the outer edge of the heart. Okay, there we go. That looks good. And again, I could see some of my guidelines, which is a great reason to keep them light. And and I did go over the heart in red first, but the other guidelines for the flowers and shamrock and stuff like that, I could still see them because I did them a little bit darker because I kept changing my lines around. So again, lighter is going to be better when it comes to guidelines. And that's exactly what they are. They're guidelines. They're not something you want to see in a finished picture. Whether you're drawing or painting, okay, your guidelines are guidelines. They're just to kind of guide you and let you where the beginning or ending of something is. Okay, I think I'm ready to go ahead and kind of do these flowers in here. Right, so I'm wondering what color I want to make them. I could do pink. I could do, this is actually the same color as the background. could mix a kind of white and grayish color and make it an off-white, or you actually could make it a pure white. I wonder what that would look like. I'm intrigued by that idea. So, I mean, absolutely follow the handout exactly the way it is, unless you want to experiment. Okay, if you want to experiment, I like the idea of experimenting. It makes it kind of more your own. And again, when I look at something, I'm like, oh, that's beautiful. How can I make it even better? Now, better is a very, very subjective word because someone might look at this and go, yeah, what did she do? She didn't stick to that at all. Okay. And someone else might say, oh, yeah, it really does look better, Joni. So it's totally subjective. Everyone has different tastes. So I'm actually going to go ahead and put this middle in because if I make the flower white, I don't actually want to mess up or miss my middles. So I'm going to put them in knowing that they will need a second coat because yellow can be a very thin color, and it kind of depends on the type of paint that you're using. But all of them kind of seem to be a little bit on the translucent side, unless you're buying a really thick viscosity and then bringing it down to the thickness of it that you want, the viscosity. Okay, so these are pretty white. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and paint them white. Okay, and I can see my pencil lines underneath. In this case, I think that's kind of a good thing because I do want to put in some different shade of white or gray in there so that I can tell one petal from the other. Right? And again, take your time. And what I usually say in the tutorials, and I'm going to go ahead and say in this one as well, even though we're kind of getting close to the end here. If in fact I'm moving too fast for you, um, slow or pause the recording until you catch up with me. If I am going too slow for you, please do not go ahead of me. Okay. Now, in our funny paints, sometimes, everyone works at a different speed, which is absolutely okay. But I also, kind of go around if someone's having a particular problem and I try to help them out before we move on to the next phase of the picture, the painting. And so some people who are not having a problem in that particular area get impatient and they kind of go on. But then they might make a mistake in the other part of the picture. And so now then we have to try to fix that. So it's actually easier if you wait until we get there. Okay, so if I'm moving too slow for you, do a second coat of paint somewhere, do something else, but just kind of don't go on to the next step until we're ready to do it together. All right, so I'm going to take, now I have my white on there, and I kind of think that was a good idea. I like the way it looks, but I need another paper towel here because I do want to create some of that gray in there. I wonder if I have, let's see, I do need, if I can do this without falling off my chair, which has been known to happen. Okay, so okay, this brush, let me put its little cover here so I don't lose it. I'm going to take some white paint, like so. Okay, maybe a little bit. And then I'm going to, and my black is drying out over here, but I'm going to add it and make that kind of grayish tone that we made for the background. And I'm going to use it to go in between my flowers here so that we can see one from the other. Okay, and I'll show you what I am doing. And you will see it. Okay, so see that little bit of color over there? So what that is doing is it's giving us a different shade. The same thing that we did on the leaves we're doing here. Okay, we want to be able to see where one petal begins and the other one ends. So a really good way to do that is with color and shading. Okay, so it's exactly the same thing that we were doing with our leaves. Yeah. Okay, and if you get too much gray on them or it's too dark, you can always lighten up with adding white to it. Okay, so here's my gray flower. Okay, and now I want to actually take some white and add some white, especially around these edges here. Right, so what ends up happening is my gray is still there and it's still doing its job. It's just not quite as gray. And I can still see where one petal ends and the other one begins, which was the goal here. Okay. So, I don't want to see my pencil lines, so I'm actually painting over them. I probably can do that a little bit better this way, so bear with me. Okay, I thought this tutorial was going to just float right through it. We're just going to go right through it really, really fast. But it's been a couple of hours, which is not bad. But I think I did one really, really long one in the last batch that we did, and had to allot more time for it on the station, which they was very gracious and did do for us. So it could all be in one. We didn't. They didn't split it up like into two videos, which is okay too. And we have had them where we split them up into two, but we're trying to be cognizant of the time. Okay, so I'm liking. I'm so liking that the white flowers. I'm liking those white flowers. Okay, so I think all that's left here is actually my ladybug. Ladybug, ladybug, ladybug. Okay, so I think what I would like to do is, remember I said to you I was going to kind of go over that background a little bit. So some of those little marks and whatnot, we can kind of go and clean up, but I think the ladybug needs to go on first. And then you can put the word love in here. You can put someone's name in there. There's also dots around, going around the heart. Okay, now anyone who knows me, dotted mandalas, so on and so forth, right up my alley, absolutely love it. Okay, so I would like to put those dots in. But before I do, I'm going to put my ladybug on. Okay, ladybug. So what I'm going to do to put my ladybug on is I'm going to get some white paint and just really lightly give myself a guideline. You actually could do it with your pencil if in fact your picture is dry enough. Okay, and I'm going to put a little ladybug on here. Don't want a big fat ladybug. I'm a little ladybug. Okay, so I'm actually going to paint her on here, and I'm going to paint her on white. Okay, because That'll be like starting with the white of the rock again. Okay, let me clean up a brush. So, and if I start with the white of the rock, then then I can get the colors that I want on there. She's kind of, yeah, maybe a little fatter in the butt area. Okay, and then comes down to a little bit of a head over here. But I'm going to round her out just a tad. And maybe make her a little bit bigger back here. Okay, she has a lot of detail on her as well. Okay, but think that I don't think she'll be a problem to draw or paint actually, because she's actually just a few colors. Right. So that's where my ladybug is gonna go, right there. Okay. So I'm gonna take the butt end of my smallest brush, which in my case happens to be my three-head brush, and I'm going to take the back of the brush and dip it in the white paint, and then I'm going to go ahead and just dot around the outside of my heart like this. Okay. You could also use a pointed Q-tip. Let's see if that does any better. They're about the same. So whatever is easier for you. Okay, so see what's going on here? We have a little bit. It's really kind of cool. It certainly is not difficult to do. So you're going to just go around and space them as evenly as you can, obviously. Okay, so this is what we're looking like. And I'm definitely anchoring one hand with the other. Okay, let's do a little guy right there. Okay, and then some more coming down here. Okay, don't let them get oval. Okay, keep them round. And I'm saying that because mine are getting oval shape. We want you to keep them round, those dots round. Okay, okay. Beauties, 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 I have to say. Okay, so now I think my bug could be ready, and she definitely has a blue head. So I'm going to dip into my blue ladybug. I guess it's a her. Ladybugs should be hers. Okay, so let's switch brushes here. So I'm switching to a brush, not swishing, although I am doing some swishing as well, to a brush that has a little bit of a point on it, so that I can do the fine points of the ladybug. Yeah. Okay, so look at the blue head on the ladybug there. And now we need red, which is going to clash just a little bit, I'm thinking, with the red of the heart. So I'm going to take and add a little bit of yellow to my red just to change the color of the ladybug just a little bit. I mean, we still want her to go ahead blue in here. Good. Clean your brushes good. Okay. And now again, I want some red here and then some yellow here. And that's going to give me a slightly different shade of red for my ladybug. Okay. So we're going to come right down the middle and go this way and this way. Okay. And I will show you what that looks like as well. Okay. She's a little ladybug. And this one hair coming out of this brush. This one's going to end up, this is going to end up being a 3-hair brush soon. Okay. So it comes like this. This side comes like this. And again, I made them just slightly different color than the red of the heart. Okay. So can you see that? Okay. Wait a minute. There she is. There she is. Okay, so she's a blue head and kind of orangey red wings. Okay, so I'm actually going to grab a little bit more red here, like so. Put that back on there. And just around the edges of her wings, I'm going to do that so that we can tell one wing from the other. There we go. All right. And the very back of her is black. See, the very back is black. I am going to use my 3-head brush for that. And let me see if my black is still doable. And it is. Has a little bit of tight skin over the top because it has been sitting here for a couple hours. Okay, does the trick. Okay, okay. So we're making this kind of triangle shape here for the back piece. Okay. Let's see here. And we do want it to we want to extend that line a little bit up the back. Let me see here. Let's work this a little bit better here. There we go. And actually, if your paint is a little dry, put a little, just a teensy bit of water in there. Not a lot. If you water down your paint, you will so not be a happy camper. You can create what we call hot spots. Okay, so this is ending up with here a little bit. Where's my bug? Where is she? Where is she? Ta-da! There she is. Okay, so let's switch brushes here for a second. I'm going to come right around this edge and up here. So I'm going to give my ladybug just a little bit more shape. Okay. So if you're looking at your ladybug and she looks like she needs something, then she probably does. Okay, so now let me see here what we end up with. I'm going to add a teensy bit of white to my ladybug because she has a little bit of highlight going on. And I will show you where that goes. Your best friend is going to be that little handout. Okay, so let me show you. My ladybug is right there. Okay, she's a tiny little guy, little girl. All right, so let's let her dry out a little bit and fix her blue a little bit. And once her back dries out somewhat, we're going to put some little black speckles on her, little spots, because ladybugs have spots, which I'm sure you already knew. Okay, so rounding out a little bottom piece there, and definitely let her dry a little bit. I'm going to put 2 white dots for the eyes. Okay, and you could do that with the back of your brush if you wanted to. I just did it with the tip of my brush, and it actually was pretty easy to do. So it's just actually touching. So that actually is easy to do. So I actually would like her to be a little redder. So putting a little bit of white on her wings, and then I'm going to go over them with some red. Okay, what I would like to do at this point is put the word love on there or somebody's name if you like. Okay, so I definitely would use a pencil for this. And again, there's really not a wrong way to do this. You know, you can just write it in your normal handwriting, okay? Or you can swirl it a little bit, like make a swirl like this, and then like that. And then you put the O in, and then the V, okay, and the E. And there's not really a wrong way to kind of do that. Let me see if we can do it again. Even if you are sure that you cannot do lettering, you can do this. Okay, so I made it a little bit darker. So it's right there. You see it? Ta-da! All right. So you can put someone's name there. You can, like I said, you can put your niece, your grandchild. Of course, if you have a lot of grandchildren, you'll be in deep yoga, so you're going to have to make a lot of rocks. Um, so you might just want to put love Nana or love Auntie or I love you or just love. Okay, just love works just fine. You could put someone's name in there. Okay, so I'm going to put, let me see if I have enough room to actually put his name in there. Okay, and oh, that's how you spell it. Okay, so I'm going to put, let me see, that in there, and the name is Blaze. Elaise, which at least I'm hoping it is, right? So I'm going to, with my pencil, figure out how to get it in there while my little ladybug is drying, so I can put her dots on. Okay, let me see here. Oh, it's going to be awfully small here. Okay, guess that will work. Okay, I am going to try it. I am going to use my three-head brush, if in fact I know what to do with it. Here it is. And I'm actually going to, I mean, it's white on here, so I like the idea of the white. I'm actually going to keep it white, but I'm going to do it, I think, really kind of soft right now till I'm sure that I have it on there right. Okay, so so decide what you're going to put on there, and the easiest thing to do would probably be just to write the word love. So let me show you what it looks like in a minute. Okay, when I tell you I'm doing it really light, I'm doing it really light because I did in pencil first just to kind of make sure it would fit on there. Plus, what did I say his name? Spell that name. It'll be like, So he's a little bit of history here. He's a person that bowls at the bowling alley where I bowl. He doesn't bowl on my team, he bowls on another team. But we struck up a little bit of a conversation and just kind of chit-chatting away. So I thought it would be cool. And he actually is very generous. So anyway, I would be this way back. And using this three-head brush is probably going to be the only thing that saves me. Yeah. All right. Now, unless tells me I spelled his name wrong, which is very possible. I did ask him one time how to spell it. That's what's going to go there. So I am going to make it a little bit darker and all of that good stuff. So let's go ahead, and I'm using the same brush. I'm just going darker. See how I'm just making the letters a little bit thicker. Okay. So my three-head brush is doing what it needs to do here. Okay. Now that I have his name on it, I'm actually there's a little heart over here, which I think is kind of cool. And you can put it on or not put it on. You may not even have room to put it on. Okay, so totally up to you. I'm going to put it right here, and I'll show you in a minute what I have done. And I am being extremely careful here. So you do have to have quite a bit of patience. and then just a little bit of a squiggle down here. Okay, so that's it over there. I am going to now, I might put a second heart in there, but I actually would like to finish off this ladybug, okay, which means getting her back her red wings, which is right here. Okay. So there are her red wings. And now we want to put some black dots, okay? And the black dots are going to have little bits of white dots in them. So make them a decent size. Okay. Here are my little black dots on her. I think I need one more right there. And her eyes, okay, her eyes actually are white, with little black dots in them. So the opposite, okay? So now we're going to dip into this black and make little tiny dots in her eyes. I am looking over at his name. Okay, good, good. I like it. Okay, so now all we need now is the white dots there. And I am going to dip into that white. And now, if you do not want to put the little white dots in there, by all means, do not put them in. Okay? Because you don't need to. You are free. Let's see. She absolutely does have little white antennae, which I think I'm going to use my 3-head brush to put in. And you do not have to put those in if you don't want to, because they are very small, certainly, and they come the back of her head this way. So eyes are like this, they come out like that. So they're coming out towards her. So this is them. She has this little tiny antenna. Okay. So now the only other thing left to do is the touch up. If you have any touch up that needs to be done over here, now's the time to do it. Okay. You can sign the back of it. And this is what we have here. And this, my darlings, is done. Okay. So we started out like this, we ended up like this. Okay. And hopefully you like yours better than the handout. Because I'm looking at this. I'm like, yeah, that looks pretty cool. Okay. So I am going to give up because I have been sitting here for 2 hours and now I'm ready to stand up. Ta-da! Okay, so let me show you again what we have here. And you can write someone's name in there. You can write love in there. You can do anything your heart desires because you are the creator. Okay, so thank you, Drake It Cultural Council, Friends of Drake It Elderly, Bethany, and all the rest of the team at the Drake It Council on Aging. When I tell you they're a caring group, they're a caring group. So the Drake Council on Aging is being renovated and it's going to be absolutely beautiful.
So even though the center is closed, the church, Christ Church United on 10 Arlington Street. Okay, they are doing DCOA functions there, and the staff is in the Dracut Library. But so if you need to get a hold of them, you can get a hold of them there. They still have all the services, transportation, so on and so forth. So everything is going full steam ahead. We're just in a different spot. We are doing ongoing. What do I have here? Is that paint? We are doing ongoing art classes, 11 to 12:30 on Fridays at that church. Okay, it's the Christ Church United. It's on 10 Arlington Street in Dracut, Mass. Okay, so be there. All right, and it's an open class, which means that you can work on any subject matter that you want. Some people are doing landscapes, some are doing flowers, seascapes, whatever. Okay, so you can work on anything you want. You can draw, you can paint with acrylics, you could do oils, which are tough to kind of bring back and forth with you, but acrylics, pencil work, all that stuff is really easy to transport. And we're in the most beautiful room in the church. There's an elevator that is right inside the door. And goes up to the third floor. There's a sink there, a bathroom. It has lots and lots of windows and plenty of room for distancing if that's an issue for you. It's a big, huge room. It's beautiful. It has a piano in it. So sometimes I like to get there early and tinker around with the piano, and tinkering is definitely what it is. But come and see us, come and try a class. They're only $10. It's a special price for our uh, and I mean people outside of Dracut come too. So I mean you do not have to be a Dracut resident. It's for Dracut and surrounding areas. We would love to have you. Right now there's 5 or 6 of us when the class is full, and each and every one of them is not only a student, they become friends. Okay. So you will absolutely love them. So I hope that you will join us, and I'm hoping that we can do some fun and paints there eventually, which is the senior center version of wine and paint. Okay. So again, we have a blast. The picture that you see behind me, the tree with the white flowers on it, is a fun and paint picture. So there's actually a lot of them on the wall here. But for now, I'm going to say good night because it definitely is night. Call me, Joni, Joan Turner, 978-807-7608, or email me at Jonissa, Joan as in Nancy, I as in Susan A, at Comcast.net, and say, yo, how did you do this? Where do I get rocks? But whatever it is. Okay. And if you have some senior center services that you need, call the senior center. Okay. So while I don't know the number off the top of my mind, it's really easy to get a hold of, and they have a newsletter and all kinds of stuff to keep everyone informed. Okay. So for now, I'm going to say good night and happy Valentine's Day, because I'm making this video in February of 2022. Okay, so happy Valentine's Day, everyone. Until next time, be legendary, my friends.